Greetings, my dear viewers. It is I, Drayhon, and welcome back to Pathfinder Hero Flux. That is Flux, short for fluctuation, as this is a parody version of my Dungeons & Dragons character conversion series. Fluctuation is a synonym of conversion, you see. Anyway, I had to explain that because YouTube likes to be weird. Anyway, welcome back to Pathfinder, and today we are doing a viewer request for the Beast of the North Winds, the Pokemon known as Suicune. Thank you once again to Andrew for making this request. I was a little hesitant at first because I wanted to try to start things off with the starters, but this is actually a good way to test out the app that I use to create these characters, since I don't have all the books. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. We need stats, so we're going to have Dexterity, Constitution, Wisdom, and Charisma each go up by 2 for our starting stats. Now, to talk about Suicune, we need to look at its Pokédex entries. Said to be the reincarnation of North Winds, it can instantly purify filthy or murky water. This Pokemon races across the land. It is said that North Winds will somehow blow whenever it appears. This divine Pokemon blows around the world, always in search of a pure reservoir. Now, according to the creator of Suicune, I'm going to butcher this name, Munio Sato, this Pokemon has a leopard-like motif and pays homage to the god Fujin, who is a deity of the winds, and also has some semblance of the mythical creature Kirin, who is leopard-like, and its name derives from the words Sui, meaning water, Sishul, meaning crystal, and Kun, meaning monarch. So let's go ahead and take a look at this water crystal monarch, shall we? For our ancestry, since we are looking at a leopard-like design, we are going to want to go with the cat folk, with the heritage of the Undyne, since they are water spirits. That's what Suicune is, a water spirit. So it makes the most sense to go with the heritage of the Undyne. For our Dexterity and Constitution, they will each go up by 2. Our Charisma will also go up by 2. However, our Wisdom is going to be decreased by 2. This is because our cat folks are not very wise, strangely. Anyway, we get our languages of Common and Amuran. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Thanks to the Undyne, we have the amphibious nature, we also have low light vision, and we also are able to land on our feet because of the catfolk ancestry. And for our ancestry feat, we're going to take the Undyne heritage feat, Tide Hardened. Now, for the background, I was going to pick the Aspiring River Monarch to tie in Suicune's name of Water Monarch, but there was another background that fit perfectly. And you might be wondering, what background could possibly fit Suicune, the Water Monarch? And to that I say, you must not know the story of the Burned Tower. Once known as the Brass Tower, this tower was once said to be the roost of the Pokemon Lugia. But one day, tragedy had struck when a mighty storm had appeared, setting the tower ablaze. 3 unknown Pokemon were trapped inside the tower as it burned to the ground, and they died tragically. But then, as the rains fell, Ho-Oh had appeared and blessed the 3 Pokemon that had died in the fire and brought them back to life. Riku, for the lightning that had struck the tower. Entei, to represent the flames that burned the tower to the ground. And Suicune, for the rains that had put out the burning flames. And that is why, for Suicune, and any of the legendary beasts for that matter, we will be using the background of the reborn soul. This will give us a +2 to our dexterity and to our constitution. And we also get 2 special skills that are lore-based, which go with the lore of how we were reborn. That part's a little tricky. I don't exactly know what lore would best suit them, so I'm just calling them Lore 1 and Lore 2. But at 3rd, 7th, and 15th levels, when we receive our skill increases, these lore skills will increase automatically. Now for our class. We're talking about Pokemon. These are magical creatures, imbued with their own elemental powers. So, obviously, we have to go with the Sorcerer. This will give us a +2 to our Charisma, and extra hit points equal to 6 plus Constitution modifier. For our proficiencies, we get to be trained in Perception, saving throws are Fortitude and Reflex, and we're expert in the Will save. For our skills, Acrobatics, Athletics, Intimidation, and Nature are our best bet. We are trained in simple weapons and unarmed strikes, as well as being trained in all armor and all unarmored defense. For our bloodline, I thought that it would be fitting to go with the elemental bloodline, more specifically the element of water. This gives us some good spells granted to us, as well as our bloodline spells. And our blood magic, which states elemental energy surrounds you or a target. Either you gain a +1 status bonus to intimidation checks for 1 round, or a target takes 1 damage per spell level. The damage is bludgeoning for fire, according to your elemental type. Bludgeoning or fire according to your elemental type. If the spell already deals that type of damage, combine it with the spell's initial damage before determining weaknesses and resistances. So that's pretty cool. And since we picked the element of water, the granted spells that we get change their damage type. They become fire if we are imbued with fire magic, but they will become bludgeoning damage if they are water, earth, or wind. That seems kind of weird, but whatever. This does help us with getting these bloodline spells to look just like the moves that we would acquire as we level up as Suicune. Especially Aurora Beam, since, well, Suicune is the Aurora Pokemon. At level 2, we need a class feat, which will be our Ancestral Blood Magic, and a skill feat for Catfall. At level 3, we'll get trained in the Medicine skill, and we'll grab the feat Feather Step. We also have access to signature spells. At level 4, go ahead and get Cantrip Expansion for your class feat, and the skill feat Quick Jump. At level 5, we get an ability score improvement. Increase dexterity, constitution, wisdom, and charisma, each by 2. For your arcane skill will now be trained, and our ancestry feat will be aquatic eyes. Since we already have low light vision, these aquatic eyes will give us dark vision. And we also have access to magical fortitude, of course. Moving on to level 6, we'll grab the class feat of the Reach spell, and the skill feat of Combat Climber. Seems rather obvious to have this since we're Suicune. We should be able to fight while we're climbing if we are fast enough to summon the North Winds. Am I right? Moving on to level 7, go ahead and get your acrobatic skill up to expert and grab the feat Fleet. You're also an expert spellcaster at this level. Level 8, your class feat is advanced bloodline and your skill feat will be natural medicine. For your expert skill, go ahead and grab nature at 9th level. For your ancestry feat, mirrored magic seems to be the most appropriate. And since you are a level 9 sorcerer, you also have access to lightning reflexes. Moving on to level 10, go ahead and increase your strength and your wisdom each by 2, and increase your dexterity and charisma each by 1. For your class feat, go ahead and just grab bloodline resistance, and your skill feat, steady balance. Level 11, we are now trained in diplomacy. I just grabbed it because it seemed like it would be something Suicune is good at, since it just stands there and everyone's like, oh, okay, sure. For your feat, grab breath control, and you also have alertness and support weapon expertise. For your level 12 sorcerer, grab the class feat Greater Bloodline and the skill feat Efficient Explorer. Since you are technically looking for pure reservoirs, it just makes sense to have this skill feat. Moving on to level 13, you are now trained in stealth. Your ancestry feat is Saber Teeth. This is to represent some of your bite attacks. Since Suicune doesn't have any claw attacks, it just has biting attacks, like Ice Fang, which I think we actually grab a magical bite later. Anyway, defensive robes and weapon specialization are 2 more skills that you have access to at level 13. Next is level 14. We have the class feat Purifying Breeze. This is the closest I can get to for purifying water. I think there might be a spell that purifies water, but I'm not certain. Your skill feat is Magical Shorthand. Level 15, go ahead and increase your dexterity, constitution, and charisma each by 1, and increase your strength by 2. Your expert skill is going to be stealth, and your feat is going to be Die Hard. And you also have Master Spellcaster at this level. Going to level 16, we get the class feat of Ancestral Mage, and the skill feat of Hefty Hauler. You're a pretty big cat, so it makes sense that you'd be able to haul some extra weight. Like, say, the weight of 2 small children. It just makes sense. Level 17 will go ahead and become Masters in Acrobatics and gain the Ancestry feat of Tidal Shield. Since we are a level 17 sorcerer, we also have access to Resolve. Going to level 18, grab the class feat of Magic Sense and the skill feat Kip Up. At level 19, grab the Master Skill of Nature, the feat of Toughness. You also have access to Bloodline Paragon and Legendary Spellcaster. And finally, level 20, we gain access to some more ability score improvements. Increase your strength by 2, your intelligence by 2, and your wisdom by 2, but also increase your constitution by 1. You're trained in survival, and you gain access to the class feat of Bloodline Perfection and the skill feat of Acrobatics Mastery. Now, I am going to point out one thing. My app does seem to have a little bit of a glitch, or it just might be something else entirely. But I wanted to have access to a skill feat, or rather a dedication feat that went with the elemental subclass of the sorcerer that I had picked. And that would be the Elementalist Dedication. Since we have access to elemental magic, it makes sense for us to gain access to the Elementalist Dedication. However, for some reason, my app would not allow me to gain access to it, which is such a shame since we were able to gain access to some feats that matched quite well with Suicune. After getting the Elementalist Dedication feat, Water Step being one of them, and Dowsing Spell just kind of seemed appropriate as well. But this Elementalist Dedication feat was something I was hoping to gain access to for this build, so we can have access to it and Water Step. That way we have a more accurate Suicune build. But for whatever reason, the app I was using to create this build would not allow me to gain access to these feats. Now, you're probably asking, why not go for a monk? Well, monk uses strength as its primary stat, and Suicune doesn't require strength. In fact, if you look at its stats, Suicune is not exactly a physical attacker. It is a special attacker. It goes for the long-range, spell-like attacks. It doesn't go for the physical attacks. So with that being said, this has been Drayhon, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, I am offline.